We are back with the second post-show roundup for Hidden Pages. I'm Aaron Goold, and with me is...
Sammy Sarzoza. I'm the co-creator, co-writer, co-producer of the Hidden Pages.
As am I. So we are the complete creative minds behind the podcast phenomenon known as the Hidden Pages.
It is quite the phenomenon. Hey, I was thinking, because we don't have a title for this segment, I was wondering if we could call it the Hidden Stages. Get it?
The Hidden Stages?
Stages, because we're breaking down the stages of how we made the episode. So if we called it, the show is called the Hidden Pages, and this is called the Hidden Stages.
I like it. I think it's better than what we had before, which was the Not So Hidden Pages. I think this is a bit more clever.
Yeah, I was thinking about it all like 2 months or a month and a half or whatever since we did the last one.
That's where our effort goes, folks, is thinking about how we should call our in-between shows.
I woke up in a cold sweat one night and I was like, the Hidden Stages.
And then you passed out again.
Yeah, then I went to sleep again.
Well, yeah, I like it. Let's stick with it and Let's continue on with the Hidden Stages. This is where we talk about the show after the show has already happened. So we are in episode 2 now, the God Box. And since Sammy, you were the kind of the leader, the showrunner behind this one, so to speak. If there's not much of a division between what you and I do in this process, but definitely the God Box I felt like was your inspiration. So if you want to talk us through that would be a good start.
Yeah, the God Box. Let's see. It's been a long time. But I think, yeah, like how we come up with the ideas is like we kind of like, I have some ideas, you have some ideas, and then we pitch them to each other, and then we decide like, oh, is this going to work? Is this not going to work for the show? I think we're still getting our footing for the show as well. I mean, that's not anything that's unusual for a first season show or a new show or series or whatever. So this one was a little bit darker than the first one, and I think the next one is going to be pretty lighthearted.
Well,
maybe not. I don't know.
To a degree, yeah.
To a degree, maybe. I don't know. It seems like I do like the darker episodes, and you do like the lighter
episodes. I think we have more jokes. I think this third one will be about as dark, just with there's more jokes. That's all.
Yeah, maybe that's the truth. I think. So this one, I seem to remember there was a story in the news, like probably around last year, where there was like I pulled up the article from The Sun. Here I am pretending like I didn't know about it, but I was like, I pulled up a story from the sun.co.uk, and it was a story about like some woman, and I think in Ventura, California, which is nearby here. She recorded like a video of a truck with a police escort going down the street, and she posted it on YouTube. And everybody was wondering, well, what was in the truck? Was it like nuclear waste? Was it like aliens? Like everybody had like a theory. But it kind of looked like the truck in like Jurassic Park, where they're transporting the raptor, like in the intro, like the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. Shoot her.
Yeah.
Shoot her.
So nobody really knew. So everybody just kind of speculated, and it was kind of fun. And I think I saw that story because I read the news like every day. You know, I read like, a lot of different news sources from all over the world. It's just one of my hobbies. And
just that's the thing about the news is it's like it's always there. Like every day there's news. It's weird.
Yeah, it's like, and you'll see patterns in the news a lot of times, like what's going on and stuff. So it's just kind of a good way to, before I start writing. I usually just kind of peruse to kind of get. That's my method.
Creative juices going.
Get, the
rattle the cage.
Yeah, like just the neurons firing and the kind of just some inspiration. So. That was kind of the genesis of it, really. I think I approached you and just said, like,
what's in the box?
What's in the box, right? Like, what could have possibly been in the box? And we thought about it. And
then we never found out.
Yeah.
We just started writing.
I think at one point it was like, we talked about it. I think we were pretty close to doing this idea where it was going to be like a monster in the box. And then, like, the monster got free somehow. And then Desmond had to
Like that was going to be a second or a third follow-up episode or something to be continued.
Yeah, something like that, where the monster gets out and he couldn't like put it back in, and so like we maybe do an episode of what happened to the monster or something like that.
I think we did like spend a bit of time thinking what's in the box, because the problem is once it's always a letdown. Whatever it is you come up with, it never quite reaches the imagination. But in our defense, I think you came up with a pretty cool ending. So if people want to find out what's in it, they're going to have to listen.
Yeah, and it wasn't like an ending that I think we really worried about or really thought about. I think worried about too, like what we didn't want what was in the box to just come out of left field. Like, oh, it's a monster robot for some reason, or like
rabid turkey, yeah,
or like a superhero locked up or something. Something that was just out of left field. I mean, it could have been that, but we wanted to really tie
it in to some sort of thematic point.
Yeah, like to his character or like what he needed or what he wanted, and that's how we kind of came up with.
Well, I think it's sort of a double twister, if that's a phrase, because there's like the twist is what's in the box. Like that's usually the twist kind of in these setups. But then there's the twist of like, well, wait a second, how is that what was in the box? Like, what's your explanation for that? Because it's pretty crazy. And so it sets itself up for failure unless you have a pretty good solution. And I think you came up with a pretty good solution, I thought. And it's kind of cool because the solution is also relevant to what's going on in just the world today. Without giving too much away, it was like when I read it the first time, your treatment for it, and I thought, oh yeah, that's like a good solution because people are talking about this and it's cool and it's hip and it makes sense. So I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, I think, I try to, I mean, like I said, I read the news a lot. So like I try to, pull in, especially when telling something that's really kind of sci-fi-ish or current or what's going to happen in the near future. It feels like a near future tale. So I think I remember reading even pretty recently, after we had already kind of locked in the script and stuff, there was like technology where scientists can start to control people. That's kind of scary, actually. Like, because Regina in the God Box episode says like after like soon we won't even need humans, like, and that she threatens to like be able to control Desmond's body. Like we know how to do this only for a short period of time, but we can do that. So I think some of the what's it called? The synchronicity with man and machine, or the merging.
Biotechnology.
Yeah, biotechnology, like kind of the
nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, all those buzzwords that earn millions of dollars from investors.
Yeah, I think that's all. I wanted to really try to mix in some of that and see like, what could happen in the near future, what we could be looking at and what kind of consequences they could have, I guess. Mm-hmm. So while this isn't necessarily technology is bad, I mean, I guess it is, but
I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just it's fascinating. The way I see it. It's powerful, and it's a very big tool, and learning how to use it's very challenging. Is a way I look at it.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. Like I think that it's very. I think we both try to keep an objective view of it. So we didn't really want to say technology is bad. Just like look at technology and what.
I tried. We haven't gone down this road yet. But like, I'm not a big fan of the technology is bad perspective in Hollywood or in general, really. Mostly because it's so pervasive in Hollywood. It's almost like a cliche at this point. And I don't think it's even a good cliche. It's like a not a very optimistic, useful one. And I'm a big fan of guys like Peter Thiel and thought leaders like him, and he's always been complaining that Hollywood is responsible for a lot of the lack of technological progress that the world has been suffering. And he thinks that if Hollywood could write stories that are more empowering, that people would be motivated to do better things. And I think that's true to a degree. And he cites the way people made movies about technology back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s I mean, you had people, of course, like George Orwell still and Aldous Huxley, but they were talking more about social commentary, like where's the state of politics. They didn't really. It wasn't really a commentary on technology per se, but he thinks that most of the movies that talk about technology or quote unquote forward looking, they're all very negative towards technology. And I think, I think you're right. It's good to be more objective and to see the benefits, see the potential rather than just the negatives.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's why the Regina character exists as well, because and Dr. Kwan at the end, I think that really wanted to hammer that home. Like they don't even think it's a good idea. I mean, they're working on it and they don't even know if it's a good idea, you know? So to kind of give probably a perspective that you don't, like you say, like you don't see in storytelling much anymore. They always want to kind of just go and say like evil robot or something.
And that's why, and I think there's a good way of going about that. And I'll always come back to Michael Crichton, who's one of my heroes for talking about technology, because a lot of people look at him as kind of like a doomsday technophobe guy, but he's really not. He just likes to explore the challenges of technology, and in any kind of technology you're going to encounter more failures than successes, and he's talking about technologies that are very and I think you are too with the God Box. These technologies are very powerful, and the more powerful they are, the more you have to be cognizant of the negative qualities. It's kind of like my dad always talks about like flying a plane, taking risk in different situations. There's taking a risk like making a podcast show, like what we're doing, and then there's taking a risk like flying a plane. Well, the repercussions of flying the plane incorrectly are infinitely worse than flying your podcast show incorrectly. So you can kind of be reckless and have fun with the podcast show, but when you're flying a plane, every little moment matters. And I think technology is kind of like that too. And I think a lot of people just get a little overly pessimistic about technology, where the effects aren't really like that big. Like AI technology, everybody's afraid of the T-1000s or whatever taking over the planet, but that's just so not even close to where AI is that it's not really like a valid concern. Versus say biotechnology, I mean, how much do you really want to start messing with hormones and animals and plants? Like that's kind of hormones and animals and other things in plants. That's a real conversation, I think.
Yeah, and definitely, and we might get into that. I think we
should
explore
maybe
kind of a lot of these different things that, like I said last time, like we don't get to get explored in media as much. So, I think I try to approach everything with like a very neutral, almost like a documentarian kind of approach, I guess, to my fiction storytelling. I think you do too. Kind of like where you say like we don't want to judge it. We just want to tell the story and kind of explore these things. So,
although I don't know how do you feel about just jumping the gun slightly with episode 3? I feel like we really just let our imaginations fly with that one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That one has like nothing to do with. I mean, it has a lot to do with history to some degree and ancient culture, but in terms of technology, that's pretty absent from this next one.
Yeah,
which is kind of what makes our show fun, I think.
Yeah, I think so. We're always going to mix it up and stuff, and I think even that story, even like when not giving anything away, but at the end, I think people will be surprised at the neutrality of it. I guess maybe. There's a teaser, I guess, but yeah, I think that this was I think this was really fun. I think it was a little kind of a showcase of what to expect for the series with the first one and then this one. So I don't know if we'll necessarily go this kind of dark in tone again, but this maybe the first one starts as like the two extremes of examples, and then the rest of them will kind of be in the middle.
I think the darkness is as I was listening to it and thinking about it, and then as I was working on episode 3 with you, it's not so much the darkness that's the problem. I think it's the balancing of the jokes, the humor, breaking it a little bit. And there's not a lot of break in there's a little bit with Marvin, and Marvin is the truck radio voice for people who listen to it. He's a little bit of a source of comedy, but there gets to a certain point where all that kind of falls away. And I suppose Dr. Kwan is too. I tried to give a little bit more lightness between him and Regina at the end, at least in terms of performance with the actors, to lighten things up a bit. And I think honestly the sound effects that Andrew Mock provided really helped to, even though it's serious and it's dark, it's still really fun, and that's the main goal, is to be fun.
Yeah, I think definitely. Like, I think that is I think that's the goal, is to make it fun. Even, the subject matter isn't as, as light as the first one is, the Eternal Chorus. But yeah, I definitely agree bringing in Andrew. Andrew was brought in for the second episode, and he'll be with us for the rest of the season, for the remaining 6 episodes. And it was just bringing it to a whole new level, which I thought was really, when I listened to this one, I think it helps elevate everything. It's almost like having a third writer, essentially, when I listened to it the first time, with his sound effects and stuff.
It really gives a lot of life it gives a whole dimension to the story. Like, you're listening to this thing and it feels very, when you listen to a story, sometimes it can feel kind of one dimensional, and you can feel a little claustrophobic, for lack of a better word, because we are so used to having a visual medium and social media and on our computers to tell the story. It can almost be claustrophobic, I would imagine, to most people who aren't used to reading or aren't used to listening to something for a story. But when you have his sound effects, it really makes you forget that you're listening to a story, and you kind of just dive into your brain, and the visuals start to pop with all the sounds. It's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. The way I met Andrew was I worked on my short film Geeky Phoebes back in Minneapolis when I lived in Minneapolis, and I think I just put like a call. Like, I needed someone to do the sound effects and the mix and stuff for the movie, and he answered the call, and I met with him, and we hit it off kind of right away. He kind of knew what I was going for, and then there's an animation sequence at the end of Geeky Phoebes. That's like an Ideal Man is the name of the short. It's on geekyphoebes.com. Plug. Go watch it.
Go watch it.
At the end credits is like one of my friends from film school did like an animation in the style of like a Mega Man 8-bit video game. And it's amazing. Like, it's during the credits, it's great. And then without even telling Andrew to do like sound effects for the little animation sequence, he just did it and surprised me. And I was like, wow, this is like amazing. Like, I didn't even tell you to do that. And he made that like that extra dimension of like enjoyment for that little animation short at the end for the credits. And I always remembered that. So even like, it's been, probably like 3-4 years since I've moved to Los Angeles. When we were doing this project, I was like, let me go call him to see what he's doing. And I approached him and told him about the project. I had him listen to the first episode, and he was on board. He really wanted to work with us and work with the project. And I'm glad he's with us, because it, like I said, like, I think we both were very happy, and I think it got us really excited about, because we're still in writing and production preparation and stuff for the future episodes. And I think it got us both thinking of a lot different way on how to approach even the writings of the script to incorporate Andrew's, abilities and talents and stuff. So.
Yeah, I agree. And like, full disclosure, I was sort of like against the sprinkling a lot of sound effects into the show at first. I thought, maybe it'd make it sound too cheesy, or maybe it would be distracting. And it worked out really well. So he's the kind of guy that goes the extra mile for sure, and it pays off.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I understand that as well, because I think I was too. Like, I think we talked about that right when the inception of kind of the show. Like, we didn't want it to be like like an old school like radio drama with like, boy, yeah. Like, we didn't.
Although now that you mention it, we should maybe think about incorporating that, whatever that makes that boing sound.
Yeah, maybe in episode 8 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, we didn't want it to like for the sound effects to be like call attention to themselves and take people out of the story as well. So I think, I mean, full disclosure, like I had those concerns too. I think you had them more than I did, but I think once we heard what Andrew could do, because I think when he originally took a look at the, or listened to the God box, we send him like a rough draft essentially.
Mm-hmm.
He had compiled a list of all the sound effects he was going to do. And we kind of both looked at the list and we were like, wow, this is like a lot of sound effects. It
was like every 5 seconds there was an effect. It was like, that is a lot.
Yeah, I think that just on paper
for a
kind of
15-minute thing. Yeah.
And for like a 15-minute thing or 45-minute thing, we were just like, wow, that's like a lot of sound effects. That's kind of maybe overboard. We kind of had that.
Yeah, because on paper it just looks overwhelming, but then when you hear it, it's pretty natural.
Yeah, and that's what he was able to do, and he was just able to kind of make it naturally, mix it in and stuff, and add some effects. And I recently went back to Minneapolis for a visit, and I visited him in his little studio that he has, and it was cool. Like he showed me he has an extra bedroom where he just did all the Foley sounds, and he was kind of showing me like how he recorded some of the sounds, like in the episode, like in his little side studio.
We'll have to get him on the show too sometime. He can talk about that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I was like, oh wow, like I was telling him some of my favorite sound effects. Like one was like the deer scrapping against the trailer.
Oh yeah.
And he was like, oh, let me show you. Yeah. And he just like took out a drumstick and he scraped it on a piece of metal.
Starts beating his wall.
Yeah.
Like, let me show you the gunshots.
Yeah, I think the gunshot was he had just had them because he goes out. That's what his like hobby is, It was just going out to record sounds as well, like in the
yeah.
And
I went deer hunting, and I just recorded me shooting them.
Yeah, that's what he does. So it's kind of cool to see how he does it, and I just add another dimension to it. So it was really
yeah. I'm
glad that he's with us for the rest of it, and I think it really kind of affected just like as we go into production, because I think we were pretty close when I went to go see him or brought him in. Or I think when we brought him into this episode, we were pretty close at finalizing episode 3 on paper. And I think as we kind of heard what he could do, like we started to just kind of tweak episode 3 on paper, or to incorporate a little more of what he can do. So
yeah, man, it'll be cool to I'm trying to think. I haven't gotten very far with 4 yet, but 4 will definitely use a lot of that more ambiance than anything, sound effects, because a lot of it takes place in nature and in older buildings. So it'll be interesting to see how he can pull off some of those effects.
Yeah, and that's just like the recording that he does. Like he also does like his audio computer setup was like really, he showed me some of that too, and I was just like amazed how he could just like press a few buttons and like, because the Lisa's voice at the end in the God box, like the little echoey thing, like I was like, that was so cool. Like I listened to the first draft of his like of his like effects version, and
chills up my spine. Yeah
it was like late at night, and it was like I was just listening to it laying down, and I was like, that is so creepy.
Wow. I was listening to it probably at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, and it still was creepy.
Yeah. So I was like, that got my just brain firing like a mile a minute, thinking about like future episodes, and like, wow, if that's what he can do, like, and then he showed me how he was like, amazing. Oh, it's easy. It's just press like 3 buttons, and he was like, that's how I did it. I was like, holy crap.
Well, thanks, Andrew. You'll be getting a Christmas card.
Yeah, and he just had a baby, so.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, so congratulations.
He can make more things than just Foley sounds.
Yeah, so if we need to put a baby in a future episode, I'm sure he can rustle up some.
He can rustle up his child.
Yeah,
wake up.
Which might work good for us that he had this baby, because like he might be up a lot more,
Yeah, that's
with
true.
the baby, so he could work on he could work on future.
We got to start writing a baby into one of the shows.
Yeah, if you hear a baby people in one of the episodes,
that's his.
That's probably his, yeah.
That's us exploiting children.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to say about the God box?
I think just the cast was like really great. It was great to have everybody back again. That was back from the first episode, and bringing in Gene was really fun. He did the voice of Marvin, and then Frank, the
the
pseudo spy in the
the stone cold pretend drunk killer man.
Yeah, like the spy.
That was
guy.
a good scene. Him and Andy, they do well together.
Yeah, it sounded really natural. It sounded it was, hopefully it sounded like authentic. And then you find out at the end where it's just like, he was just getting
That's
played.
the key to having, I think I might have said this last time, but I knew somebody who did some production. She lives in Los Angeles here and does most of her business here. But she had a production that she shot in San Francisco, and so they did all the casting in San Francisco. They have the same services out there that they would hear, like LA casting, except it's called like SF casting up there. I'm sure it's the same company, just different city. And she said she thought that since it's San Francisco, it's a big town, and not only is it a big town, it's a big arts town. She would have had plenty of amazing actors there. But she said it was actually really hard to get a good set of actors for a relatively simple like corporate training video. And so every time I get like your friends or my friends together and we do these shows, or I do a short film or whatever it is I'm working on, I'm always thinking about like, don't take these people for granted, these actors, because I feel like in Hollywood we sort of get used to all this talent, but as soon as you get outside of here, it drops off pretty fast. So it's pretty cool to oh yeah, and just to add on, like one reason why I think that, you know, the great talent that we have access to out here, but also Andrew's sounds, the reason I like them is as I was listening to more popular podcasts, I think we have a lot going for us that other people don't really provide, which is we're not like a documentary show. Most other popular podcasts are some sort of documentation on some kind of real current event or something. And I think we're a lot more produced with our stories because we have all these extra sound effects and we really tell the story orally. And I think that really sets us apart. And we really utilize what's the greatest thing about Los Angeles, which is its pool of actors and the production of the audio production talents, which, you know, ironically enough, Andrew's not in Los Angeles, but nevertheless, his talent is one that would fit in well here.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was talking to him about as well. Like when I visited with him in Minneapolis there, it was just like, yeah, man, like you definitely have the talents to survive if you were to move out here, because he is just like so talented. So, but everybody is like, I think like everybody that we work with is very talented. And I think we do have a lot working for us with the show, because it's different and it's unique and like you said, like very well produced. Hats off to you. You direct the episodes too, so I want to make sure you get credit.
It's pretty sloppy directing, but it gets the job done.
Well, it sounds great. So I'm nowhere near production.
Well, it's this time. I think this next time I'm gonna have to break things up a little bit, because Eternal Chorus was. It was a lot of fun because we got to record all at once. The challenge is that it's very difficult to mix that properly and to get a nice audio sound when the whole cast is there, unless you have a bunch of mics and they're isolated, or you have a very good sound engineer. And then so the second one was a bit more sectioned off, and I got a feeling the third one's going to be really sectioned off, just because one time it's hard for me to get everybody together and it's a big cast, this third episode, and two, it's just, as I'm learning, it's just really challenging to record more than two people at a time. So I think I'm gonna make things, it's not as fun because it's really exciting and energetic to have a full cast in a room together reading the whole thing. It's like a really active table read, but it just doesn't yield for the optimal audio experience, I don't think.
Yeah. But you do a good job. So I think it's still.
Thank you.
It's still, I think we were trying to capture. Someone asked me what is like Hidden Pages all about? And I said, well, I guess like I have an idea of our audience that like they're, camping and they're listening to a Hidden Pages story by like the fire, or they're, it's a cold winter night and they're just by their fireplace or something. Like I have this picture in my mind. It's not real, I guess, but it's a picture in my mind of just like that tradition of like oral storytelling that has been around since the beginning of time. So I guess my imagination of an audience is just like people enjoying it that way, going back to pure storytelling to a certain
Smashing
extent.
graham crackers and marshmallows together, and then
Like the community gathers to like listen to a story from like a storyteller, that like an oral story that's very important in many cultures. That's how they pass down history and tradition and stuff. So
well, that last part that you just said hits the nail on the head for me, because what I think is really lacking in storytelling in general these days is the story that has a purpose and has a point, for lack of a less pretentious term. But I just, when I hear people talking about shows that are on, or when I see shows advertised, or when I read treatments for shows or screenplays and movies and stuff, they just aren't telling the stories that I found fascinating growing up. And to like give an example of two stories that I think are really great examples of stories. One is from literature, Treasure Island. It's one of my favorite stories, and it's simple, it's fun. It was meant for young boys to read back in the 19th century, but it still holds true today because of the excitement and the wonder and adventure. And there's nothing fantastical about it in terms of it's all based in real world situations. The pirates are very real. It's not like Pirates of the Caribbean where you have all this fantastical creatures and magic. It's all based in real stuff, and it's still really exciting. And there's a lot of references to science and history and technology, because you're dealing with a very complicated clipper ship to go from England to the Caribbean islands where Treasure Island takes place. And then the second great story that I wish there were more of is stories like Lawrence of Arabia, where you have this big. Lawrence of Arabia is great because it's the perfect film, and that it uses cinema to its extreme. Like, it's the perfect story for movies, for the theater, and it deals with a big subject matter with a real person, big human emotions, big questions about culture, about human nature, about leadership. And Hidden Pages, while it doesn't tackle things quite that big, there's, I think, a train or a level of stories that are kind of in that tradition, where you're dealing with things that people think about, and it kind of helps them understand life a little bit better after they listen to the story or after they do something. And that's what I think is lacking, is the stories where they're not only entertaining, but you come away from it thinking like, wow, I feel like I sort of understand the world a little bit better now. And that's what I strive for with Hidden Pages.
Yeah, and I think our prologues and epilogues kind of help to
like reinforce it.
Yeah, like reinforce it, I think, as well. Because I think at like the end of the second episode, which I've kind of passed down those kind of duties to you as well, right? Because I think you're so much better at writing those intros and outros. I'll just be like, it needs to be about something here, and then I'll put that, and then you go and write something really nice.
Well, you're too kind.
But I think at the end of the God Box one, like where he says like think about if you're living in an environment that you didn't make, like that can apply to so many aspects of our lives,
Oh yeah, I think I don't even know which one of us wrote that, but I think that's definitely that's what that episode is about. It's like we look at the extremes, such as what happens in the God Box, but is it really extreme, or is it really, the Hidden Pages?
Yeah. I think that comes from your approach too. We kind of talked a few weeks ago on the phone just about production and such, and getting ready to do this next episode. But I think that like it's important. I don't know if it's important. It's probably important for the audience to know, like Desmond was going to die like at the end of this one.
Oh yeah, we have to talk about death.
We have to talk about death.
Bring us into that topic real quick.
Yeah, so I think I'm always really quick to kill people, and then Aaron's always like, no, hold on, do we really have to kill him? So
yeah,
I think that's a lot of more your sensibilities as well. I thought that was really interesting to hear, because I'm always just like, I'm not always like that, but it's just like it felt natural for me to kill him. But then when you come in with this perspective of like, do we have to kill them? And I was like, well, maybe we don't. Like, I think maybe that's why we work as a balance kind of so well, is because you provide a different like perspective, and I'm like, oh, maybe, yeah, like you could.
Well, I've just I had an acting teacher once who say like, conflict is interesting, and like that was his whole thing about acting. I didn't really agree with that concept. Like, conflict is not in and of itself interesting. Conflict is mostly annoying and frustrating for me, and I think a lot of people use things like annoying people, personalities, or evil characters, or frustrating situations, or death as a way to spark interest. And I'm just always cautious because one, I know historically stories like the Odyssey, Beowulf, all the great things, death is a huge grisly part of the story, and that's what history was about. But I mean, death is pretty horrible, and I think Hollywood treats death pretty glibly for the most part. Not mentioning any movies, John Wick, but but I don't know. Like I'm just very sensitive about death because it's a pretty scary, awful thing, and I think when you kill off characters, you're kind of adding into that. For me, it's just a personal fear, and maybe it comes across way too strongly in my writing, which is why I agree with you. It's good that we write together because you kind of bring me into territory that I wouldn't normally go. And that's good because other people do find that stuff fun and entertaining, and that is how stories ultimately get told. And so it forces me to like rethink my strategies, and that's good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that kind of getting back to like I'm Mexican American. We just had Day of the Dead just passed, so I think I think we just have different like ideas and approaches of it. It's kind of that kind of stuff is like in my mentality, in my like tradition, where we have Day of the Dead, where we celebrate, people that have passed and traditions and stuff. So, I don't know what that has to do with anything, I guess. But,
no, I know what you mean. It's more of a topic in certain cultures. In certain cultures, death is not the end of everything, but for me, death is the end of your personal life.
Yeah.
I don't believe in anything else before or after.
Definitely.
So it's kind of like this is all you get when you're dead. You don't care because you're dead, but it's still not preferable.
Yeah, and I think when we talked about it, I was just like, oh yeah, like I think it could be more interesting if he like is still alive. He's just like a babbling mess on the floor, as well. Like, and what they did to his wife or his ex-wife, where they've used her too to in this experiment as well, and now they're just kind of both brain fried people. Will they recover? Maybe, but what is that recovery and such? So I think it's more of a.
Maybe he'll recover as some sort of cold-blooded killing machine.
Yeah, like Jason Bourne or something. You never know. But I think that's more, when you approach it that way, I was like, well, maybe that is more like
what
horrifying than death, to have.
Well, I also thought we actually had an opportunity because, not to give away the ending, but one is led to believe that there is a death, and it turns out that the death is the same thing that would lead him to do this horrible thing is the same thing that causes the twist at the end of the story, so to speak. So I just thought not only did it work for him to not die from a more fun storytelling perspective, making it less dark, but it also added a bit. It emphasized your twist to begin with, I thought. So it reinforced that like. This is what's changing, or this is what has changed, and then I thought we could have more fun with it if he lived, and you had more of a chance to twist the ending a bit more, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. So,
but people die in this third one, so
it's a spoiler. I told Aaron, I was like, I'm going to kill somebody this season on the hidden pages.
We kill
somebody's going to die.
What? I won't say how many, but it's more than one person dies, in more than one way, and
so I think
like death takes on many forms in this next episode.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So
that's definitely true. Get it?
Deathly true. So I think that, and there was also like just to give little teasers maybe of episode 2. He when he was a babbling mess on the floor, what did he say? He said something Altamira. Sisypha.
He might have said something that had to do with
one of our most loyal fans so far.
Listener.
He had asked me, he's like, why did he say the band's name?
Speaking of fans and listeners, did you want to address like for fun like an error that we encountered, or did you?
That's
not
maybe next time because we're gonna write our way out of that. So
Okay. I forgot about that, but
No.
it's to the just in case to the discerning, those who are ammunition specialists, you might discover inconsistency with some things, but we'll leave that for you to find out.
Yeah, I'll leave that to you to find out. So, yeah. So there's what was that? I don't like. You have to keep listening to find out. What I always tell people is that if you listen to all the episodes, you will be handsomely rewarded, or beautifully rewarded, however you want to take it,
Or just rewarded.
or just rewarded in general. You'll be rewarded in a general sense if you listen to all the episodes. While we don't live in we're not creating like a Marvel universe, cinematic universe, where there are some things that may cross over and stuff,
Yeah,
so.
I think the biggest thing that's going to cross over is the multi-billion-dollar valuation of the IP that we're generating. That's going to be very similar.
Yeah, definitely.
Comus, man, he's going to be
huge. Just not
Comus
yet.
going to be huge. And
So I think that's probably all we need to say about the God Box for now. Maybe we'll.
yeah, I think the next thing somebody has to do, if he or she hasn't listened to it already, is just to listen to it. And I'm going to get on the horn here and get episode 3 up and running soon. We got plenty of people working on it, so it should come up a little bit faster than the last 2 have come. But it is becoming the holiday season, so we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that addressing what took so long between the first one and the second one, I think was just the getting our footing. But now I think we're a lot more sure-footed, and having Andrew with us and knowing production and having people, our core people of actors and stuff in place and stuff. I think this one will come a lot quicker. This next one.
Yeah, and it's cool because we pretty much have I think there's only maybe one episode that we don't really have a definitive plot yet for. I think everything else we kind of have at least an idea of a theme or a story that's going to go along, and for all the remaining 8 episodes.
I think episode 6 is the one that we're missing right now. So
yeah,
or 7, 6 or 7 probably.
6 or 7, yeah, because like my wife actually submitted. We have our first solicited writing submission to Hidden Pages, and that's something we can talk about at some point too. Is the opening up the democratization of Hidden Pages to anybody who's interested in telling a great story.
Yeah, I think Star Trek: The Next Generation always had that policy. Like people could send in spec scripts. And
I wish Star Wars had that same policy. That would have been great.
More. This was the 90s. You probably could have done it with Star Wars in the 90s when nobody cared about it.
Well, they did with the books, and that's why the books were so great. But then now they just suck. They suck.
One man's opinion.
One very Star Wars trained man's opinion. Sadly, not that I'm proud of that statement, but hey, we all have had a past.
That's true.
So
I think So we have talked about maybe the next season having more people come in, and if they have ideas or stories. I think after the first season here, we'll have a pretty good grasp of what we're all about. So I think by the time season 2 runs around, we might open up more.
My dream, once all 8 episodes are done, is to have like this, because I still buy CDs. I'm an old man. I still buy CDs, and my dream is to have like a 8-disc collector's edition Hidden Pages thing that you can buy, and it's got this awesome booklet that comes with it, with all these pictures and extra fun things. That's like my dream. That's what I'm trying to build.
Let's do that.
Once we get all these done, that's like the grand presentation of what we're doing.
Yeah, let's do that. And the art. Oh, we should talk about the art for God Box too quickly. Is my friend Yoga did the art for the God Box, which you animated on the YouTube.
He did a great
platform.
job, man. Yeah, we have a great little posse we're building with this show.
Yeah, definitely. And he was excited to do it, and I think he just knocked it out of the park. And gave us something that was really just kind of encapsulates a story without giving anything away, and it's kind of fun. Then you animated it. It's kind of
sort of how you're treating writing with Andrew's abilities. I'm on a lesser note treating the ideas of the artwork with Yoga's abilities, because he's pretty good at coming up with ideas that can be like divided. So if people go on YouTube and watch or listen to the show, you can actually watch kind of a fun little scene unfold before your eyes where different background and foreground things change. And people seem to have responded pretty well to like something as simple as just a moving YouTube image, even if it repeats. I guess I've heard people say like it's kind of hypnotic, and so I take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
For him, and just the fact that we can get people to actually watch a stationary YouTube video.
Yeah, yoga. I think you worked really closely with yoga for the artwork. I didn't really have much to do with it, just because you kind of had an idea in your mind about what to do, and we worked with them really well. I mean,
I had a really
10 years now,
bad composition idea, and he made it awesome. So that was great.
That's what he does. He's done art for me quite a few times over the past 10 years that I've known him, probably, and that's how I just tell him like, I need like a bear or something in the woods, and then
my drawing for this thing was the worst thing ever.
You should put it on the website. You should put up like what you drew on the
here's
pages.net website.
Here's what I drew, and here's what actually turned out to be.
Let's look at what yoga did.
And it's just like this. Yeah, oh, man, it's like cave paintings and then like Madonna of the Rocks by Leonardo or something.
Yeah, so he's really talented. I think we're going to have him for at least a handful of the next episodes. Hopefully all of them. But I know he's really busy as well. But obviously because he's super talented. So
it's a big ask. It's a big ask for all these other shows. But hey, if you're listening and you're up and you think you're up for it, you think you can fill those shoes. I mean, we contact me at aaron@aaron.goold.org.biz, and I'll help you out.
.com. We should have we need like a Hidden Pages email address. Do we have one at all? So people, if they need to ask questions or get in touch with us.
No, we don't. But
for our ravenous fan base,
if they really want to find us, I'm pretty easy to find online. Even though I have no social media presence, I'm not hard to find.
All right.
You type in Aaron Goold, you will find an email. I'm sure. I'm sure it's the same with you. I don't think anybody has your name that I know of, and the same amount of prominence.
Yeah, I mean, mine's Sarzoza.com. I own that. I've owned that for like 10 years. 15 years.
You're a pretty big deal out here now.
There's not a lot of me, so the last name Sarzoza.com was pretty easy to get, and I've kept it.
Yeah, you just go to Aaron Goold, 2 O's, not OU.
But we probably should. Let's maybe get on that. Sorry, I stepped on your announcement.
No, that's you're right. I am the sort of the IT guy here. I need to do that, but
just in case ravenous fans have questions about their favorite show, we can respond
it's just this stupid thing called a job really gets in the way of me getting real work done.
I hear that, buddy.
So on that note,
so I guess coming up is episode 3. What do you want to reveal the title yet? Do we have the title? I mean, we have a title, but I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we can. It is called Hunger Pains.
Hunger Pains.
It's also an HP. We got 2 HPs. Hidden Pages presents Hunger Pains by Harry Pages. I mean,
Harry.
I couldn't think of a better last name, so I just repeated the word Pages.
Harry Pages. That's good. So that'll be episode 3.
I'm excited about this one. I think this one is gonna give the first episode. I really like Eternal Chorus, but I think Hunger Pains is gonna give Eternal Chorus a run for its money in terms of fun endings, interesting stories, and complexity of I guess the plot's pretty straightforward, but I think this is our most thematic one, I should say, if I can say that.
Yeah, whereas like the first 2 would probably be like TV episodes. This one would be like a movie, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. This it's almost literary. It's still got all the fun audio things coming along, but it has when I approached writing parts of it or some of the concepts, I kind of came at it from I've been reading a lot of weird stuff lately, so I kind of approached it from more of a literary perspective, and so I think the narrator kind of has a bit more insight than he normally does into the situation. So that's something that people can, I think, look forward to, is the narrator plays a much bigger role, I think, than before.
Yeah, I think we talked about one, he's like really talented that, does the voice.
Eric Pierce.
He's Eric
awesome.
Pierce, sorry. He's like, we were listening to him and he was like, oh, he's just great. So let's give him a little more, character. Because a lot of times in a lot of these stories or audiobooks or whatever, like it's, the narrator always plays it very straight, like I'm just going to describe what's happening to you in a kind of an even tone, in a non.
Yeah, he has no commitment or involvement to the story, so to speak. And actually, the idea came from my wife because she wrote an episode, or she wrote a story that would fit pretty well for Hidden Pages, that episode, and her narrator did all these, kind of made jokes and had a personality. And I told her, I was like, that's kind of what's we should be doing. Like we don't really have that in the show yet. So that's sort of what sparked that for me.
Yeah, and it's kind of something that's, the show is kind of evolving as well as we kind of get our footing for the first season anyway. So I think that's we're trying.
I really hope nothing happens to Eric. We should probably take out insurance on him if we can.
I agree. So I think I think it would work, and I think we're both happy to like give him a little more color, and I think it works really well. I think it's gonna be really fun. But it is our most complex episode, like just the elements involved in.
It was kind of hard to write. I mean, we redid this one. Like we wrote it and then we basically wrote it again completely.
Yeah, so, I guess we'll talk about that
we'll talk about that next time.
The next time, but what happened with that? But yeah, we did we really almost a page one rewrite of the whole thing, and
almost, yeah.
I think it works for the better. Not quite, but
close enough.
Yeah, pretty close to that. So, and I think it works so much better than it was. So I think that once we kind of retooled stuff, we also found ways to make it more complicated not complicated, but more, I guess complicated.
More layered, I think.
Layered, yeah, to kind of make it more interesting, because we knew that we had something interesting like in a story. So,
well, we definitely need to talk about the original. Like next time, we'll talk about the original concept.
Yeah, because I think that's kind of interesting
versus what we got. That'll be a fun thing to actually discuss.
That'll be really fun. To tell people what was really going to happen.
and then what could have happened but didn't.
Yeah, it could have happened and didn't. And then seeing what happened. So yeah, I think it's going to be fun. And we have a lot of talent on board. Like our concept is to have like our core actors and then like bring in, like rotate in, different voices, different people every episode. So we won't have Gene back this time, but we'll have new people. Maybe Gene will come back at a future episode, but that's kind of the concept that we kind of came up with, was just kind of having, some fresh blood, some new people, kind of mix things up a little bit and but keep our old, our standard people, like our troop intact.
Yeah. I like the troop. So as tight as I can keep them, that will be very helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's kind of the fun of the show as well, to kind of have the, kind of creating a super band every episode, mix in new, or like a jam band. Was that what they call it?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Like a jam band.
It's kind of like an orchestra. You have some people that get traded out every now and then, but for the most part, it stays the same. But I like it. My dog is starting to bug me to go out, so I guess my life runs around her. So I should probably oblige.
I thought about somebody on my next door app was selling a tank of fish, which I've been watching. I've been really into like fish lately, like watching them on YouTube, like people with like fishes and like their aquariums and stuff. I just find it really interesting, and I really like fish, and that probably will come up in the next episode. I like the ocean and the water. Spoiler.
Yes, we have things that are very aquatic in this next one.
And
I have been interested in Anglo-Saxon history, which we'll approach. So we both have our strange fascinations.
In the next episode. So, but I was gonna buy, like, they were selling this 10-gallon tank and like a bunch of fish, and they were like, "I'll show you how to use it. I just need it out. I'll show you how to like take care of it." It was $25. But then it was like, that's too much of a commitment. I can't. But so I was like, I can't have any pets right now. It's just like feeding a fish once a day. It sounded like a headache. So
yeah, stick with a plant for now.
Yeah, stick with
Venus flytrap or something.
Although I killed the plant my friend gave me. It was one of those.
Sammy, you're a murderer.
She was moving out of her apartment, and she's like, "Do you want this plant?" And I was like, "Yeah." I got all excited. I'm going to take care of a plant, and then like
it died.
I forgot that I had it and died in the
Now
kitchen.
that's got it. Maybe that'll be episode 7 somehow. It'll be the revenge of this plant. That
plant
was
comes
neglected.
back for like Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, except it's like romantically jaded or something.
Yeah, like you let me die and I loved you. It's all I provided you oxygen, or carbon dioxide.
You're hearing Hidden Pages live brainstorming session.
Yeah, this is what we usually do. So.
this is how it goes. But Sammy, you hang
insight.
on. I'll sign us out, but you hang on after, and we'll discuss business things and
future episodes that we can't let the people hear yet.
I can't let the
we gotta brainstorm
yet.
episode 7 right now.
We have to filter things before it gets too apparent. But
all right. Well,
so the next episode hopefully will be up. I'll be working on it over the next month. No promises, but I'll try to get it up by the end of the year if all goes well.
Yeah, it'll be our Christmas gift to you people. And
absolutely.
I guess that's it for now. That's been another episode of the Hidden Stage. Hidden stages.
Ding 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 ding.
I like it. I don't know. Maybe you don't.
I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
We'll keep
All
it.
right. Signing off. Have a good night, everybody.
Let's hit the music. That do 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 do.
Do 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 do. That'll go in there. See ya.